creatures of the night, drug addicts, uneducated, crazy, immoral, perverted prostitutes. We're a growing collective of already 43 members of sex workers of all kinds.
We decided we're willing to take the risk because this really needs to happen and we need a safe place to work.
We want to take it out of the shadows and bring it into the light, offering new conditions, a safe place, a platform where sex workers can advertise their beautiful services.
We're creating a Genossenschaft, which is a workers-owned cooperative business form. This Genossenschaft will own a website that will be a platform where sex workers of all genders, all sorts of offerings, and all races and different intersectionalities will be able to have a profile page, fully how they want to present themselves, to advertise themselves with consistent branding and marketing that's aesthetically pleasing and inclusive. Really letting the workers have a lot of freedom is the basic main idea as part of the foundational business.
We're all workers ourselves, so we know what to take into account and put into the platform for the advantage of workers.
And the power of having a worker-owned collective is that the clients know that it's a very self-empowered, self-determined type of business, and everyone that's participating in this business has a say and has rights and wants to be there. A profile page, their pronouns, their gender, their services, and set their own prices, which is extremely important. If the worker wants us to do the client communication, that's also something we could offer. A safe line where all of the workers will check in when they start the date and check in when they finish the date, so we know that everyone's safe. One of the goals of this platform is financial stability. So we are going to try to have such a successful marketing strategy that there's a consistent level of business for all of our workers. What we're going to try to do is take as small a percentage as we possibly can so we cover our operating costs, because the workers do most of the work. They deserve to keep as much of that money as they possibly can, so that's super important as well. Being able to offer this level of diversity of options on this single platform doesn't exist yet. Since we're already marginalized workers, it's very hard to take a complete break from our lives. Building this business is a full-time job. There's so much work to do. It's a lot of paperwork and bureaucratic German, and we need a break from our paid work that we can really build this business in an ethical way and have rules in place so that no one gets exploited, because this is so important to us. So there are a bunch of things that you have to do to register a Genossenschaft. We have to consult with the Prüfverband, we have to write statutes, they have to approve the statutes, approve our business plan. With a sex working business, there are also a lot of additional requirements that we have to fulfill, such as having an anti-trafficking policy, which is very important, to make sure that we're definitely not contributing to human trafficking or slavery in any way, that all of our workers are consensual. All of our workers have to be registered. So there are a bunch of hoops that we have to jump through, and a bunch more hoops because it's a sex works business, and we want to get this accomplished quite quickly because there is the economic need for it that we all have. So I did sex work for 6 years in the US under full criminalization, and I moved to Germany because I wanted to not live like that anymore. It was so disappointing to realize that even though it's legal, that doesn't mean that it's safe or fair, or that you're respected, or that your human rights or your workers' rights are respected. I moved my whole life across the world and found really shitty workplaces. A lot of us have concerns about aging out of the industry. We all know trans, non-binary, queer workers who don't present as this typical female. Male sex workers typically earn much less than female sex workers, which is completely unfair. And all these people need a home. So that's a big part of why I'm doing this. In all jobs, it's hard to have bad working conditions, but when you're offering sexual services and you're so vulnerable, if you feel like you're being exploited at the same time, it can very quickly go to a place of trauma. Sex work is difficult, and it really is important that we're not being exploited by bosses. We need to be able to control our own working conditions, and we know what we need for it to be safe.
It really needs workers that unite and create something new.
Aside from the eternal gratitude of a bunch of whores,
Free titty shake!
what could possibly be better? We are intending to have a gala lunch party, not a sex party, a gala, with performances and cocktails and all sorts of beautiful, beautiful things to formally launch the business. So invitations to this very classy, amazing event. And then also credit as being a supporter on our website, whether it's your real name or pseudonym or whatever way you want to be credited for supporting us. And thank you so much. We'd be deeply grateful.
Now give us all your money! Good conclusion. I personally think that it's a really awesome job and it deserves so much respect because sex workers are like offering themselves up to be a channel of love and intimacy. With sexuality, it's like one of the most blissful and unifying experiences that a human being can have.
Not that it's not incredibly hard work, and we definitely have bad days at work like any other workers. We're unusual people. Not everyone can do this type of work. I love the people. I love making people happy. I love walking away from work and having caused 7 orgasms, some of them my own, and just the sense of like control I'm able to have over my own life by exchanging sex for money. It's really fucking with the patriarchy in a way that makes me so happy.
Yeah. I'm a sex worker because a lot of reasons actually. I think what we all want to reinforce is that it's really important to be not always talking about happy hooker image where we have to present ourselves as loving our jobs in order to be accepted, which is the case right now. Let people have their own freedom and let people have their own freedom of choice, freedom of what they do with their body. It's just not our choice to make.
I'm a sex worker because I'm on my own journey. I was just very disconnected from my body and from my emotion. I didn't quite understand my own sexuality. I've always felt it's very powerful, but for some reason there's no real education on that besides the biological aspect that we discuss in school. But
sometimes not even that.
Sometimes not even, yeah, and they do it in a sometimes really awkward way, let's be honest. And yeah, I started asking myself what's the real way of connecting to my own sexual energy. There's always been like this subtle whisper of me longing to be more alive and to be like connected to life and connected to my body. It also has this aspect of celebration and joy. And through my own healing journey, and now that I'm much more connected to this than in the past, I want to offer what I have learned until now to other people. Help them to appreciate their own body and their eroticism and go on journeys with them, not only as something pleasure, but also deeply healing and transformative.
And that's not like that for everyone, but like it can be really healing, transformative work.
Many escort agencies are in the hands of people that just don't really care about the rights and the conditions of the workers.
Also, the escort agency has a certain type of look that they present. They're just gonna follow through with that and they're not accepting like diverse members of the sex work community.
Currently, sex workers of color, the way that they're represented or excluded from the market is hugely problematic. Most escort agencies take 30 to 50% of what the workers make and keep it for basically very little work. I have 2 bosses right now, one for an escort agency and one for a bordello, and they're both former sex workers, but the working conditions are really awful. Under current law in Germany, it's legal and we have a few rights. Those rights aren't enforced. And there's this Prostitutionsschutzgesetz, but it doesn't really protect us. And then on a day when you have like a client who's not so great, then you feel like you're being squeezed from both sides. So this process has been really empowering to like come out of the shadows and reclaim a workspace where I can prevent other workers from having this experience again, because it should never, ever be like that.
I feel like a lot of the pain comes from how society treats us. For example, our friend here who has children cannot dare to go into the open with that because it could be possible that she couldn't see her kids again and lose them in front of court.
The female body has always been separated in 2 camps, Madonna or whore. But why do I have to choose? I am a mother and will nourish you with my love tenderly. But so am I a whore. And I only want to make a living out of what I love to do. I have to hide my face, my voice, because you forced me to, because I have to protect myself. Whatever I would do, you would only see me as a whore, and I am so much more. So I did sex work for 6 years in the US under full criminalization. That meant all the clients I saw, it was committing a crime for me and the client. Always worried about getting arrested. It was terrifying. It's exhausting to have to live a lie all the time. And I moved to Germany because I wanted to not live like that anymore. It was so disappointing to realize that even though it's legal, that doesn't mean that it's safe or fair, or that you're respected, or that your human rights or your workers' rights are respected.
Yeah, I think it's really time to kind of shift the perspective on what sex work really is, because there's still so much stigma and stereotypes in the society. Like a sex worker really helps people to deepen their connection to their own eroticism, which basically helps people to be in their own power and their radiance, and to just be connected with life and with their own aliveness. And this is a very, very important job that actually helps to stabilize a whole society when we really deal with it in a sane and healthy way.